weeks ago. It feels like forever ago, doesn't it? And we talked about 2.0, and I had some sort of fundamental questions still that you know I needed answering, and you were good enough to sort of give me the lowdown there over supper one night. And I was, you know, like I say, I was genuinely impressed by the sort of the scope of the work that you're involved in at the company. So can you start by just explaining how 2.0 itself is positioned within the broader Abu Dhabi investment ecosystem, and what drives its focus on becoming what it describes as an enabler of artificial intelligence?
Sure. Thank you so much, Becky, for having me. Thank you so much for being here. I also want to thank His Excellency Abdullah bin Tog for convening us here at Investopia. So I want you to think of the era of the gold rush. And if you think of where we are today, we're in the AI boom. That's basically the gold rush of our time now. And 2.0 is basically there to help transition and basically get this change up and running. Because if you think of the AI being the gold, and then you need the infrastructure to get it up and running. Mm-hmm. So 2.0 is a global investment platform. We are an AI enabler. We're an energy transition accelerator, and we're empowering communities. Now, I just want to give you some facts and figures on a data center, for example, a hyperscaler data center. Because a lot of people are like, okay, how does that infrastructure, or how does this infrastructure look like? So I'll just give you some really basic numbers. If we think of a hyperscaler AI data center, you're looking at the power needs of about 100 megawatts. Now, for those of you who maybe cannot put that into perception, that's to power maybe 100,000 homes, approximately. Right. So that's the power needs. Now think of the space that that data center needs. It's approximately 10 to 20 hectares, which is, let's look at football fields, let's say 18 to 20 football fields. That's the space. Now I want you to think of the equipment that you need in there. So you need your cooling systems, you need your storage, you need your redundancy. So if something happens to the power grid, you need to have the backup generators. If something happens there, you need the batteries. And then you also need the cables. And this is, I'm focusing on the cables because that's something that 2.0 is also very proud of. If you think of copper cables, so you're thinking of the power cables, and then you're thinking of the cables between the GPUs inside the racks in the data center, you're looking at about 10,000 kilometers of copper cables needed in one hyperscaler data center. Wow. That's basically going from here, Abu Dhabi, to Munich and back. So I'm giving you these numbers as one hyperscaler data center and how much is needed on the infrastructure side to be able to get that up and running. Right now, this AI boom, the hyperscalers are all racing. And so there's a lot of needs on the infrastructural side to get this up and running. So 2.0 is investing across 6 verticals. We've got the financial services. We are an LP and shareholder to Lunet. We have some assets there also for microfinancing. This is also important for the underprivileged communities that need certain small amounts of loans to be able to uplift their lifestyles. And then we've got the second vertical, which is mining. Now, this is very particular because IRH, which is our platform under the mining vertical, is basically emerging as the mining company of the UAE. The largest acquisition so far was about a $1.1 billion transaction where we acquired 51% of the Mopani copper mine. This is why I mentioned the copper cables, because the copper mine is right now delivering approximately 100,000 tons of copper. We're hoping to ramp this up to 220,000 tons of copper. Now, going back to our example, do you know how much tons of copper you need for one data center? 10,000 tons of copper. Okay, so I'm just giving you these numbers because some people just don't understand relative, what amounts are we talking about? So IRH is a fully integrated mining company exploration, mining, all the way up to trading. So it's not just buying assets in the mining sector, but actually operating. And the IRH mine, or the Mopani copper mine in Zambia, is one of our great flagship projects.
And you talk about the mandate, part of the mandate being sustainable development,
That's
in-country investment for sustainable
Correct.
development. Can you just explain?
Sure, on the mining.
Copper mine
Okay.
as an example.
Sure. So if you look at the IRH copper mine in Zambia, what we've done now is we've introduced green energy. So it's right now at 80% renewable energy. We're ramping this up to 100% in the next 2 years. We've also brought battery storage into this, and that's where our other vertical, 2PointZero, comes in. So 2PointZero is the decarbonization arm of 2PointZero that's coming into the mining businesses and decarbonizing it. We are also ensuring, Becky, because Zambia, for example, has a goal that by 2030 it wants to reach 3 million tons of copper output. So this is something contributing to the strategy of that country. We're also we've also introduced 2,000 new jobs in that mine itself. We're also making sure that in the purchase orders, that a lot of the purchase orders are done in country. So 85% of the operations go back to the economy of Zambia. We're also looking at technology and AI in the actual mine itself. Just as a very simple example, if you imagine the mine when we started had, if you look 2 kilometers underground, had basically poles every 500 meters for a phone line. This is now completely taken out. We've got real-time connection anywhere across the mine. Again, this is about safety. It's about ensuring that we can always have the connectivity to the miners underground. So this is just the technology, the AI, and then, of course, very important, the communities there, Becky, need services. So hospitals, schools, water treatment. These are all aspects that we're looking at to help uplift the communities that are working in the mine.
And we talked earlier on the panel that we did this morning about impact investing and how, or why it is that we were doing that panel here at Investopia, because intrinsically embedded in the UAE sort of vision, strategy, policy, and 2.0, part of this in Abu Dhabi, of course, is the impact and sustainable investments that are made. You've talked about the copper mine, Mopani copper mine in Zambia. What are some of the future projects and partnerships that you're working on that really showcase 2.0's commitment to what we've been discussing?
I talked about financial services. I talked about the mining vertical, 2.0. We're also in the digital assets, so we don't just mine in the physical world, we're also mining in the virtual world.
What does that look like?
I don't know if you know, but Abu Dhabi has many Bitcoin mines. And the largest Bitcoin mine we own a major stake in that's Citadel on Al Reem Island. It's a 250 megawatt Bitcoin mine. And what we've done, Becky, is we're using the surplus power of Abu Dhabi at night, because the day and night demand of power is different. So we're using the surplus power at night to mine the Bitcoins. So this is the sustainability angle that we're looking at. The 2 other pillars of 2.0, which are still being developed, is food and consumer goods. Again, this relates to my previous experience and my previous...
it was climate change and food
yes.
security. The file just kept getting bigger and bigger.
And then we've got mobility as well. So these 2 verticals are still being developed, and we hope to have announcements very soon on that. But as you can see, 2.0 is really in itself. So if you think about, I've got, for example, Al Suwaidi Electric and 2.0. They're basically like the ABB of the Middle East. They make transformers. They're actually among the top 10 global producers of cables. Again, coming back to the copper cables. And so they need the copper that IRH is producing. And then we've got the microfinancing, and then we've got Altera as well. So all these are interlocked, which are really catalyzing more growth within the assets as well. So 2.0 is really coming out as a fantastic, I like to call it, dynamic value network under IHC. And IHC is, of course, famous for building these dynamic value networks. And we're so proud that we're part of the the growth, the new economy of Abu Dhabi. And as you've probably heard, Abu Dhabi wants to become an AI-driven government by 2027. And we've got the net zero initiative as well. So the decarbonization, the AI enablement, the energy security is all interlinked, and 2.0 is there to enable that.
We've got 2 minutes left. In that time, it's been a fantastic explanation for me, and I'm sure the audience, of what 2.0 is about, because it's hard to get your head around these things, particularly when you live here and you see these entities being announced quite regularly. What's this about? So that was a brilliant explanation. Thank you. What sort of funding do you have? I mean, what's 2.0's size at this point, and what's its ambition?
So when 2.0 was announced a year ago, there were also, it said we want to grow into total assets of about 100 billion dirhams. So that's still on track.
$250 million.
So, yeah, approximately, exactly. So we're on track for that, and we hope also by the end of this year to be listed on the Abu Dhabi Stock Exchange.
Wow.
So keep your eyes and ears open, and we're excited to reach out and get more partnerships, because this is a very fast-moving sector.
And that clearly a message to this audience. Do you have, a concluding statement for this audience?
We can only do this in partnerships. This is an era that nobody can walk alone. So 2.0 is extremely welcoming of partnerships across the globe. There's a lot to do, and so I'm very happy to be here.
Do you have a geographic sort of ambition for this?
When I look across all verticals, they're very different. We see a lot of movement in Asia, Latin America. Of course, on the mining side, it's more Africa. So these are the regions we're looking at.
And can I just close with this one question? You started by talking about the hyperscaler data centers, as it were. That is not the business that you guys would be in, although the UAE, of course, has ambitions and investments in those data centers. For example, the G42 and Microsoft investment in Kenya.
Yes.
I think it's $1 billion investment in data centers there. I know in Kenya, there are there's only sort of 5% compute capacity for AI assets, and so that's a clear commitment from the UAE as far as an investment is concerned in an ambitious project, which we see not just in Kenya for the UAE, but in other places around the world. But this is very specifically in the sort of supply chain form.
Absolutely. For any transition, you need infrastructure. This is key. And so 2.0 is coming in as that enabling arm for all the endeavors that the UAE has, and globally what we need.
How long did you have to sort of establish the vision and strategy for this? Because I remember when you took over as climate change and then food security minister, that you were, I think, given 100 days to put the entire sort of file into place. Were you given slightly more, or was it sort of similar?
I came in January 2024, so just over a year, and I was told within 2 years, we want you to take this up to these numbers and list the company. So here we are.
In terms of what, the pace of change here and ambition here, that's loads of time.
But Becky, let me tell you something. In this country, there are so many ingredients of being able to reach these kind of targets quickly, and I think we have the best foundation. Leadership, policies. I mean, you heard His Excellency Mohammed Sharafa was talking about all the enablement ecosystem that Abu Dhabi is trying to do, but all the Emirates are looking at how to enable this change. If we don't pace up, we will be left behind and we'll become slaves to whatever comes in front of us. So we need to find our unique proposition. We need to come out as technology enablers. And I think from what I see and what I can see here, we're attracting the right people to come and be partners with us.
People are attracted here for what they find when they get here. They're attracted here. What they find when they get here is two things, I think. UAE speed, the speed at which things are happening, and this sense of can do better today for tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And that's sort of, what you've been talking about here very much sort of encompasses that. It's always an absolute pleasure.
You.
Thank you very much.
But by the way, we didn't coordinate. I know we're wearing the same colors, but
we didn't call each other.
No.
Miriam, thank you very much
Becky.
indeed.
Thank you so much.